Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here today. It means you've chosen to pause your day, your busy day, and that's already a sign that you're aiming for something better. Now let's get right into it. Busy doesn't mean productive. Let me say that again, just in case your to-do list is still echoing in your head. Busy does not mean productive. You see, it's easy to fill a day. Anyone can stay busy. But it takes clarity, intention, and wisdom to stay effective. There's a difference between movement and progress. A rocking chair moves all day long, but it doesn't get anywhere. And too many people are living in rocking chairs, emails, meetings, errands, drama, multitasking, bouncing from task to task like a pinball in a noisy machine. They confuse activity with achievement. But let me ask you this, if you're climbing a ladder fast, but the ladder is leaning against the wrong wall, what good is your speed? Let's be honest. Being busy is seductive. It makes us feel important. It gives us the illusion of purpose, but let me tell you something. Busy is not the same as productive. It's one of the most important truths we can learn in the pursuit of success, fulfillment, and effective living. But in today's fast-paced world, the line between the two has become dangerously blurred. People are rushing through tasks, ticking off to-do lists, replying to every email, attending every meeting, and at the end of the day, they collapse, exhausted, and say, "What a productive day." But was it? Or was it just busy? Let's think about this for a moment. Imagine a person running on a treadmill. They're sweating, their heart is racing, their body is moving, but where are they going? Nowhere. They're not moving forward in life, they're just moving. And that's what being busy can become, a treadmill of constant motion with no real destination. Productivity, on the other hand, is movement with purpose. It's working on what counts. It's not just being in motion, it's making meaningful progress. The reason people get caught in the trap of busyness is because it feels good in the short term. Checking off boxes gives us a little dopamine hit. It feels like we're accomplishing something. We feel needed, we feel important, and we feel like we're contributing. But the truth is, you can be incredibly busy and still be unproductive. You can spend 12 hours working and still not move an inch closer to your goals. That's not success, that's distraction in disguise. You see, busy people are often reactive. Their schedules are dictated by others. Their time is consumed by the urgent, not the important. They're answering emails at lightning speed, taking phone calls they didn't plan for, sitting in meetings that go nowhere, doing tasks they should have delegated all because they haven't taken the time to step back and ask, what am I actually trying to accomplish? Productive people, on the other hand, are proactive. They begin with the end in mind. They work backwards from their goals. They don't just wake up and dive into whatever's in front of them. They take time to plan, to prioritize, and to ask the critical question, is this moving me forward? If the answer is no, they don't do it no matter how urgent it may seem to someone else. The danger of being busy is that it creates the illusion of progress. It gives us a false sense of accomplishment. You can be in a flurry of activity all day and still not make an ounce of real improvement in your life or career. In fact, busyness can be the biggest form of procrastination. It keeps you occupied so you don't have to face the hard stuff. The big decisions, the strategic moves, the uncomfortable truths. A busy person fills every moment. A productive person protects their time. A busy person says yes to everything. A productive person is selective. A busy person is everywhere but going nowhere. A productive person moves with direction. Another problem is that busyness is easy to imitate. Anyone can stay late at the office, show up to every meeting, constantly be in the middle of something. It looks impressive from the outside. But deep down, there's often a lack of clarity, no defined goals, no focused priorities, just motion, just noise, and that noise can drown out the very signals that tell us what truly matters. Let me be clear, time is not the most valuable resource, focused time is. If you're giving hours to the wrong things, you're not building, you're burying. You're burying your potential under distractions. You're burying your future under things that won't matter in a month, a week, maybe even tomorrow. We live in a culture that worships hustle, glorifies being busy, and measures worth by how full your calendar is. But it's not how many hours you put in, it's what you put into those hours. Being busy is easy. Being productive takes discipline, it takes intention, it takes the courage to say, I'm not going to do everything I'm going to do the right things. And the truth is, not all effort is equal. You can dig a hole with a spoon for 10 hours, or you can use the right tool for 30 minutes and get 10 times the result. That's the difference between busy and productive. One is effort without direction. The other is direction powered by effort. Movement doesn't equal progress. This is one of those truths that can change the way you live and work if you truly understand it. It's easy to be in motion. It's easy to wake up early, stay up late, move from task to task, call it a long day, and still be stuck in the same spot. We confuse action with advancement. We assume that if we're moving, sweating, grinding, working, we must be making progress. But that's not always the case. Picture a hamster on a wheel. It's running fast. Its little legs are working overtime. It's busy, but it's going nowhere. That's the trap too many people fall into. They sprint in circles. They do more, handle more, squeeze more into the day, but they never stop to ask if they're actually moving in the right direction. They're chasing movement, not results. They're addicted to the feeling of being active, not the discipline of being effective. There's a reason the most successful people often seem calm, measured, even slow at times. They aren't chasing activity. They're following purpose. They aren't busy for the sake of it. They're deliberate. They're intentional. They know that if you're heading north but your goal is in the west, more speed won't help you, it'll just take you further from where you want to be. Movement, in that case, becomes your enemy. It's a strange thing how easy it is to be fooled by action. We have this built-in desire to stay busy because we equate stillness with laziness. But stillness is not always the problem mindless motion is. You can fill your day with errands, calls, emails, meetings, organizing files, responding to notifications, putting out fires, and feel completely accomplished, but if none of that is tied to your long-term objectives, you're just spinning wheels. You're active, but not advancing. One of the reasons movement is so seductive is because it gives us an illusion of control. It feels like, at least I'm doing something. But the question isn't, am I doing something? The question is, am I doing the right thing? You can paint a house with a toothbrush and you'll be very busy, but you won't be effective. And that's the key distinction. Progress comes from aligned effort. It's not just about doing more. It's about doing what matters with clarity and consistency. You can go to the gym every day, but if your routine isn't focused on your goals, if your form is off, if your diet doesn't match your training, you'll just maintain, or worse, burn out. Activity alone isn't the answer. Smart, targeted action is. In business, it's even more dangerous. Companies fall into this trap all the time. Teams spend weeks in meetings, planning out strategies, outlining documents, building timelines, pushing tasks, and still fail to launch the product. They confuse internal motion with external progress. They're busy creating the illusion of momentum, but the customer doesn't see any real outcome. That's the gap between motion and progress. It's the space where energy is wasted, time is lost, and results are delayed. Individuals do it too. People set goals, but then fill their days with low-impact tasks. They avoid the hard conversations, delay the critical decision, and instead keep themselves occupied with what feels comfortable. They'll reply to all their emails, but avoid the one that could change their business. They'll reorganize their workspace, but skip the uncomfortable but necessary planning session. Because being in motion is safe, it's productive in disguise. It feels like effort, but it protects you from risk. Progress, though, often looks boring. It's repetitive, it's quiet, it's not flashy. It comes from doing the essential, often unglamorous work, day in and day out. It comes from cutting out the noise, ignoring the distractions, and staying focused on the real objective. It's harder to measure in the moment, but over time, it compounds. Movement burns energy. Progress builds value. You have to decide which one you're after. If you want progress, you have to be willing to step back and assess. Where am I? Where am I going? What's the best path to get there? You have to resist the urge to sprint without direction. You have to pause long enough to point the ladder at the right wall before climbing. The world doesn't reward you for being busy. It rewards you for getting results. That requires more than just motion. It requires clarity, strategy, and consistency. Movement is easy. Progress is earned, and the moment you stop mistaking one for the other, everything begins to change. Clarity is power. Without it, we drift. With it, we decide. Clarity is what separates the productive from the merely busy, the effective from the overwhelmed. Most people aren't failing because they're not trying hard enough. They're failing because they're not sure what they're trying to achieve in the first place. They wake up and dive straight into the day without direction, reacting to whatever comes up, and then wonder why they feel like they're constantly chasing something they can't catch. When you don't have clarity, everything feels urgent. Every email needs a response right now. Every meeting feels necessary. Every notification feels important. But when you have clarity, you see through the noise. You can say no, not because you're being difficult, but because you're being precise. You're not rejecting people, you're protecting priorities. When your vision is clear, your decisions become easier. You don't waste time on the wrong things because you know what the right things are. People spend more time planning a vacation than they do planning their life. They'll research hotels, flight times, restaurants, and activities for a one-week trip, but ask them about their 5-year goals, their purpose, their top priorities, and you'll get vague answers. I want to be successful. I want to be happy. That's not clarity. That's wishful thinking dressed up as direction. If you don't know what success looks like for you in detail, you'll keep chasing someone else's version of it. And that's a race you can't win. Clarity turns intentions into actions. It's not enough to say you want to be healthy. What does that mean? Is it a weight goal, a strength goal, a lifestyle? Once you define it, you can build a plan around it. You can filter your choices. You can measure progress. Without that definition, you'll just keep doing what feels right in the moment, and moments are fickle. Feelings change. Goals anchored in clarity don't. A lack of clarity leads to wasted effort. You can pour your energy into 100 tasks and feel like you worked all day, but if none of them moved you closer to your real objective, you just spent the day burning fuel with no destination. Clarity helps you align effort with outcome. It forces you to ask, what am I really trying to do here? It demands that you slow down long enough to get your bearings before you start moving. It's not just about big goals either. Clarity is just as important in the small things. Before you go into a meeting, ask yourself what the point of it is. Before you reply to an email, ask yourself what outcome you want. Before you agree to a project, ask how it connects to your priorities. People waste enormous amounts of time because they never pause to define the purpose behind their actions. They just do, because it's what they've always done, or because someone asked, or because it was on the calendar. Clarity also brings peace of mind. One of the biggest sources of stress is uncertainty. When you don't know where you're going or what you should be focusing on, everything feels like a threat, but when you're clear, you can cut through the chaos. You don't panic when things get busy. You don't chase every new idea. You stay centered. Clarity keeps you from getting pulled in 100 directions. It keeps your energy focused like a laser, instead of scattered like a flashlight. The truth is, most people don't take the time to get clear because they think they're too busy. But being busy without clarity is like running through a forest with a blindfold on. You'll trip, get lost, and waste time. Take the blindfold off, look at the map, decide where you're going. That's what clarity does. It doesn't just make the path easier, it shows you whether the path is even worth walking. It takes courage to get clear. Because once you do, you have no more excuses. You can't hide behind "I'm overwhelmed" or "I didn't know." You have to face the gap between where you are and where you want to be. But that gap is the beginning of progress. It's the space where real growth happens. Clarity opens the door to change. It eliminates distraction. It gives your actions meaning. It turns your time into investment instead of expense. Don't confuse activity with achievement. This is one of the most costly mistakes people make with their time and energy. Just because you're doing a lot doesn't mean you're getting a lot done. The calendar might be full, the inbox might be overflowing, the day might feel packed from morning to night, but none of that is a reliable sign of true accomplishment. Activity is about motion, achievement is about results. And if you're not careful, you can end up spending years being very busy without ever producing anything of real value. People love to look busy. It's a kind of social currency. Being busy makes you seem important. It looks good. It signals to others that you must be doing something worthwhile. But the truth is, anyone can stay busy. It doesn't take discipline to be busy. It doesn't take strategy or intention. It just takes saying yes to everything, responding to every request, reacting to every problem, jumping at every notification, and filling the day with things that look like work, but don't really matter in the long run. That's activity, not achievement. Achievement requires focus. It requires decision making. It demands that you pause long enough to ask yourself what really moves the needle. It's not about how much you get done, it's about what you get done. One meaningful step in the right direction is worth more than 10 steps in circles. And yet, most people are measuring success by how tired they are at the end of the day. If they feel drained, they assume they must have been productive. But exhaustion is not proof of accomplishment. It's just a sign that energy was spent. Whether it was spent well is another matter entirely. This confusion between activity and achievement is especially dangerous because it creates a false sense of progress. You feel like you're winning because you're checking off tasks, but those tasks might not be connected to any real goal. You feel like you're advancing because your schedule is full, but a full schedule can be just as empty as a blank one. It all depends on what's inside. Not all effort is created equal. Some tasks are worth more than others. Some actions move you forward. Others just keep you busy. The world is filled with people who are stuck in cycles of constant activity. They're working harder, moving faster, staying longer, but they're not getting better results. They're not growing. They're not building anything that lasts. And the reason is simple. They're chasing motion, not meaning. They're focused on doing instead of deciding. They're putting quantity over quality, speed over direction, action over purpose. To achieve anything worthwhile, you have to be ruthless about what you give your time to. You have to look at your to-do list and ask, what here actually matters? Not what's easiest, not what's most urgent, not what's expected, what truly contributes to your goals. The things that create real achievement are usually the hardest to face. They require deep thinking, sustained effort, and often discomfort. That's why so many people avoid them by burying themselves in shallow tasks. It feels safer, it feels productive, but it's a trap. Meetings are a perfect example. Full calendar of back-to-back meetings looks impressive. It feels like you're needed, but how many of those meetings actually drive a result? How many end with a clear decision, a measurable outcome, or a meaningful next step? Too often, meetings are used to avoid doing the real work. Their activity dressed up as progress. The same goes for responding to emails, managing spreadsheets, tweaking presentations. None of these are bad in themselves, but without a clear objective, they just become busy work. Achievement is about outcomes. It's about moving closer to a defined result. You can't measure it in hours or effort. You measure it in impact. Did this task change something? Did it improve something? Did it build something? If the answer is no, then it might have been activity, not achievement. The most successful people in the world don't just do more, they do more of what matters. They guard their time. They ignore distractions. They don't chase every opportunity. They identify the few things that count and give them their full energy. One of the most powerful things you can do is step back and evaluate your daily actions. Are they aligned with your long-term goals? Are you solving real problems, creating real value, making real progress? Or are you just crossing things off a list because it feels good in the moment? Achievement requires intention. It requires clarity about where you're going and discipline to say no to what doesn't help you get there. Activity is noise. Achievement is signal. One fills time. The other fulfills purpose. Learn to say no to protect your focus. It's one of the simplest but hardest skills to develop. Most people are overwhelmed, not because they're doing too little, but because they're trying to do too much. They're pulled in every direction, juggling tasks, projects, requests, and obligations, all because they haven't learned the power of a well-placed no. They feel guilty turning people down, worried about missing out, or afraid of disappointing someone. But every yes you give is a trade, a piece of your time, your energy, your attention, and if you don't choose wisely, you end up broke in all three. Focus is not just about concentration, it's about elimination. You can't do deep, meaningful work when you're constantly interrupted by things that don't belong on your plate. You can't make progress on what matters if you keep filling your day with things that don't. Learning to say no is how you make space for the things that move your life forward. It's not just a time management strategy, it's a life management principle. Most people overestimate what they can take on. They agree to things in the moment because it feels easier, it feels polite, it feels productive, but then the reality kicks in. That extra meeting, that additional project, that quick favor, it all stacks up. And before long, the calendar is full of other people's priorities. You look up and realize you're spending your time maintaining commitments you didn't need to make in the first place. Saying no would have taken 5 seconds. Now you're spending days trying to keep up. There's a difference between being helpful and being available to everyone at all times. When you try to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one, especially yourself. People will always ask for your time. It's your job to decide whether the request aligns with your purpose. If it doesn't, it's not selfish to say no, it's smart. It's how you protect the space you need to do your real work. Every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else, whether you realize it or not. And too many people are saying no to their own goals without even knowing it. Focus is fragile. It doesn't take much to lose it. One phone call, one distraction, one unnecessary commitment, and suddenly your whole day is derailed. Protecting your focus means being deliberate about where your time goes. It means understanding that you are the gatekeeper of your schedule. No one else will protect your time for you. No one else will draw the line. You have to do it. And that starts with the courage to say no without apology, without guilt, without explanation. Sometimes the hardest no is the one you give to good opportunities. Not every good thing is a right thing. You can't pursue every interesting idea. You can't attend every event. You can't chase every lead. At some point, you have to decide what's essential and cut everything else, even if it looks appealing. Clarity about your direction helps you make those choices. When you know what you're working toward, it becomes easier to let go of the rest. But without that clarity, everything feels urgent, everything feels important, and you end up overwhelmed by the weight of too many yesies. Saying no doesn't have to be rude or harsh. It can be respectful and firm. It can be kind but clear. You can decline with gratitude. You can honor someone's request while still protecting your own boundaries. But the key is to remember that every time you say no to the wrong thing, you're saying yes to the right thing, your priorities, your purpose, your progress. That's not something to feel bad about. That's something to commit to. The discipline of no is what creates the freedom to do your best work. It creates space. It creates breathing room. It allows you to concentrate, to go deep, to finish what you start. And in a world that's constantly demanding your attention, that kind of focused effort is rare. It's also powerful. The people who rise above the noise aren't the ones who do the most, they're the ones who protect their attention like it matters, because it does. Distractions don't always come wrapped in junk. Sometimes they show up dressed as responsibility, opportunity, or even generosity. That's why it's so important to stop and ask, does this belong in my life right now? Does this move me forward? Does this fit into the vision I have for myself? If the answer is no, then the choice is clear. Your time is too valuable to give away carelessly. Your energy is too limited to spend on things that dilute your focus. Evaluate often and adjust quickly. This is what separates people who stay stuck from those who move forward. Most people live and work on autopilot. They set a goal, make a plan, and then barrel ahead without ever stopping to see if what they're doing is still working. They confuse discipline with rigidity. They think adjusting means weakness or indecision, but in reality, progress depends on frequent, honest evaluation. What gets measured gets improved, and what gets ignored usually gets repeated even if it's no longer effective. Success isn't static, it's dynamic. Life changes, markets change, circumstances change, your goals might evolve, your priorities might shift, your understanding of what matters might deepen. If you're not checking in with yourself regularly, you might be climbing a ladder that's leaning against the wrong wall. You might be pouring your energy into a strategy that stopped working months ago. And the longer you wait to evaluate, the more costly the correction becomes. Evaluation doesn't have to be complicated. It's about stepping back and asking simple but powerful questions. Is what I'm doing actually working? Is this getting me closer to where I want to go? Am I seeing results, or just staying busy? You don't need fancy tools or perfect systems. You need honesty. You need the courage to admit when something isn't delivering. And you need the humility to change direction when necessary, without pride getting in the way. A lack of evaluation leads to wasted time. You could be locked into routines that make you feel productive, but don't move the needle. You could be stuck with habits that once helped you but now hold you back. You could be holding on to goals that no longer reflect who you are or what you want. And if you never stop to assess, you'll never know. The assumption that yesterday's plan still fits today's reality is one of the most dangerous traps for anyone chasing growth. People often avoid evaluating because they're afraid of what they'll find. They don't want to face the gap between their effort and their results. They don't want to admit that something isn't working. But ignoring a problem doesn't make it go away, it makes it worse. What you tolerate, you reinforce. What you're unwilling to confront, you allow to continue. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is pause and look closely at your own process, not with judgment, but with the intent to improve. Fast adjustment is a superpower. The faster you notice what isn't working, the faster you can fix it. The faster you fix it, the less time you waste. The people who achieve at high levels aren't perfect, they're just faster at learning. They don't wait until the end of the year to assess. They don't wait until a project fails to make a change. They build checkpoints into their routines. They reflect weekly. They ask for feedback. They notice patterns. They're always learning, always iterating, always refining, because they know the world moves fast, and those who don't adapt get left behind. It's not enough to work hard. You have to work smart, and that means constantly adjusting based on what you learn. If you're not hitting your fitness goals, don't just train harder, review your plan. If your business isn't growing, don't just spend more hours at your desk, evaluate your strategy. If your relationships feel strained, don't just talk more, ask better questions. Working harder without reflection is just a faster way to get frustrated. Working with awareness gives your effort direction. The ability to evaluate and adjust also keeps you motivated. Nothing kills momentum faster than feeling stuck. But when you know you have the power to change your approach, you don't feel stuck, you feel in control. You don't get attached to a single path, you get attached to the outcome. You're willing to try, learn, and shift as many times as it takes. That's how resilience is built, not by avoiding failure, but by adjusting quickly in response to it. Everything in nature adjusts. Animals adapt to seasons. Rivers shift course over time. Trees grow toward the light. Nature doesn't resist change, it responds to it. And yet, humans often cling to outdated plans out of fear, habit, or ego. But your willingness to evaluate your own progress, to adjust your path, to learn from what's not working, that's what keeps you growing. That's what ensures you're not just moving, but moving in the right direction. That's what turns effort into excellence over time.